Sam Cooke's story begins in the Deep South. He was born on January 22, 1931, in Clarksdale, Mississippi, a town steeped in gospel, blues, and struggle. His father was a Baptist minister, his mother a homemaker. When Sam was just 2 years old, the family joined the Great Migration, moving north to Chicago, chasing better opportunities. In Chicago, music became his foundation. He grew up singing in church, his father's pulpit guiding his earliest performances. With his brothers and sisters, he formed a little gospel group called the Singing Children. Even then, his voice stood out, smooth, pure, and filled with soul. By his teenage years, Sam's talent was undeniable. At just 16, he became lead singer of the Highway QCs, a popular gospel group in Chicago. This was the beginning of a style that would one day change American music. But his real breakthrough came in 1950. At only 19 years old, Sam was chosen to replace gospel legend R.H. Harris as the lead singer of the Soul Stirrers. With them, he recorded classics like Jesus Gave Me Water and Peace in the Valley. Audiences flocked to see him. Gospel crowds were suddenly filled with young fans, drawn to Sam's charisma, his looks, and that unforgettable voice. For 6 years, Sam Cooke was gospel's brightest star. But inside, he felt another calling, the chance to reach beyond the church walls. In 1956, he quietly began testing the waters. He recorded secular songs under the name Dale Cook, trying to protect his gospel reputation. But there was no hiding that voice. The pull toward popular music was too strong. In 1957, Sam made his move. He signed with Keen Records, a small Los Angeles label, and released his first single, You Send Me. It was a sensation. The song went to #1 on both the pop and R&B charts and sold more than 2 million copies. Overnight, Sam Cooke became a national star. The hits kept coming. In 1958, he released his debut album, Sam Cooke, followed by songs like I'll Come Running Back to You and Win Your Love for Me. His smooth delivery blended gospel emotion with pop polish, a formula that no one had mastered before him. By 1959, Cooke was pushing further. He recorded Encore and Tribute to the Lady, a heartfelt nod to Billie Holiday. He was no longer just a gospel singer turned pop star. He was becoming a serious artist, exploring themes, styles, and arrangements with ambition. And then came 1960, the year everything shifted. Sam signed with RCA Victor, one of the biggest record labels in the world. His very first release for RCA, Chain Gang, climbed to #2 on the charts. With this, he proved he could compete at the highest level of American music. By the dawn of the new decade, Sam Cooke had accomplished what few thought possible. He had carried gospel's fire into the heart of mainstream pop. He had shown that a black artist could dominate the charts without abandoning his roots. And, quietly, he had begun to think about something bigger: ownership, independence, and lasting power. This was Sam Cooke's path up to 1960, from church pews to the top of the charts. But his story was only just beginning. In the 1960s, America was bound by rigid social norms that reinforced racial inequality. Black people were expected to remain subservient, never questioning white authority, and to accept life within a segregated society. Opportunities for education and economic advancement were scarce, leaving many trapped in low-wage labor with little chance for upward mobility. Speaking out against these injustices was dangerous, as silence and compliance were demanded to preserve the racial order. Sam Cooke, however, used his music to rise above these restrictions. More than a singer, he became a voice of quiet defiance and hope. While many black artists were pressured to stick to safe, apolitical love songs, Cooke infused his work with messages that transcended the boundaries imposed on him. His ability to cross over into mainstream pop charts challenged the assumption that black performers should remain confined to race music. Songs like A Change Is Gonna Come carried the weight of the civil rights struggle, offering dignity, resilience, and the promise of transformation. Through his artistry, Cooke refused silence. His music carved out space for empowerment and equality in a society that demanded submission. By 1960, Sam Cooke was no longer just a singer. He was an established star, signed to RCA Victor, competing with the biggest names in popular music. His first hit for the label, Chain Gang, soared to number 2. But for Sam, music was only part of the story. He was beginning to see the business behind the records, and the inequality built into it. At this time, the music industry was being reshaped by payola. Record executives and DJs were bribed to play certain songs, pushing them up the charts. For black artists, this was devastating. Their music was often buried unless money exchanged hands, and even when they did break through, the real profits went to white-owned labels and executives. Sam Cooke saw this for what it was: exploitation. He was determined not just to sing, but to own. In 1961, he founded his own label, CR Records, alongside J.W. Alexander. This was revolutionary, a black man controlling his own music, publishing, and talent. Under CR, Sam signed and produced artists like the Valentinos, the Soul Stirrers, and Billy Preston. He wasn't just making hits, he was building a foundation for black economic power in music. But Cooke's ambition didn't stop there. He also started his own publishing company, CAGS Music, ensuring that his royalties stayed in black hands. In an era when most black performers had no ownership of their work, Sam was rewriting the rules. He was quietly becoming a businessman, a mogul in the making. With this shift came something deeper: political awakening. Inspired by the civil rights movement, Cooke began to use his platform to speak for change. He saw the marches, the sit-ins, and the brutal resistance met by black Americans demanding freedom. And he felt the responsibility to add his voice. In 1963, after hearing Bob Dylan's protest song, "Blowin' in the Wind," Sam was struck with guilt. A white artist was singing truths about black struggle. Sam decided he would no longer hold back. He began performing his own protest anthem, "A Change Is Gonna Come." Written after his own experience with racism, it became his most powerful and enduring song. By 1964, Sam Cooke was standing at a crossroads. He had the stardom, the money, the influence. But more importantly, he had independence. He was a black man in the 1960s who owned his music, his label, his publishing, and his future. That kind of power was dangerous in America at the time. Dangerous not just for Cooke, but for the system that relied on keeping black artists dependent. And then came the night of December 11th, 1964. The official story goes like this. Sam Cooke took a woman named Elisa Boyer to the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles. Boyer later told police that Cooke tried to assault her, so she fled the room with his clothes and ran straight to the motel office, where Bertha Franklin was on duty. Moments later, an enraged Cooke stormed in half-dressed, demanding to know where she was. Franklin shot him in self-defense. The case was closed within days. But the details never fit neatly. Boyer left with Cooke's wallet and belongings, and much of his cash went missing. Her story changed multiple times. Just weeks later, she was arrested for prostitution. Years down the line, she would even be convicted of murder. Franklin's version of events also raised questions. She claimed Cooke attacked her, yet the bruises and the close-range gunshot didn't fully support her account. Then there's the setting itself. The Hacienda Motel wasn't a glamorous stopover. It had a reputation as a seedy hangout tied to prostitution and hustles. Franklin worked the desk. The owner, Evelyn Carr, was reportedly on the phone with Franklin during the shooting. In that kind of environment, setups weren't rare. A man could be lured in, robbed, and left with no one to defend his name. To some, this was no coincidence. They see Elisa Boyer as the bait, Bertha Franklin as the trigger, and the Hacienda Motel as the trap. The bigger question is motive. Why Sam Cooke? Because by late 1964, Cooke wasn't just a singer anymore. He was a businessman, an owner, and a voice of change. He was building a blueprint for black independence in music, one that threatened the profits of record executives and the control of an industry rooted in exploitation. He was writing songs that gave strength to the civil rights movement. In a decade when Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, and later Martin Luther King would be silenced, Sam Cooke's rise carried the same kind of danger to those in power. There is no single piece of evidence that proves a conspiracy. But what we do have are patterns of powerful men being lured into vulnerable situations. Two women whose stories aligned too perfectly. money gone missing, a seedy motel with shadowy ties, and an investigation that wrapped up far too quickly. Taken together, the picture is chilling. Sam Cooke's death was ruled justifiable homicide. But to many, it looks like something else. The silencing of a man who was becoming too powerful, too independent, and too inspiring to be allowed to live. Sam Cooke once sang, "It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come." He never got to see that change. But his voice, his fight, and the questions around his death still echo to this day. Sam Cooke's night should have been a business meeting. Close friends and associates later told investigators he had plans, clear, professional plans, to meet his producer to discuss future projects. That meeting was known only to his inner circle. It was a routine step for a man who was becoming as much a businessman as a star. Instead, Sam ended the evening at Martoni's on Sunset, a restaurant he was not known to frequent. Martoni's wasn't his regular scene, he had other hangouts. The sudden change of plans is one of the first cracks in the official story. There, at a place he didn't normally visit, he crossed paths with Elisa Boyer. She would later say they left together unwillingly. That night, only his friends and close collaborators knew about that planned meeting. That detail matters. It means Sam's private schedule was disrupted in a way only a handful of people could explain. Within hours, Sam was dead. He arrived at the Hacienda Motel with Boyer. She left the room with his clothes and belongings. And shortly after, Bertha Franklin shot him in the motel office. The official ruling called it justifiable homicide, the work of a violent moment. But the sequence reads differently to many who study the case. A planned business meeting known only to friends, a sudden diversion to a place he didn't normally visit, a chance meeting with a woman who later had serious legal troubles, and a death that followed too neatly. Taken together, these facts create a tight, troubling pattern. They don't prove guilt in a court of law. There is no single smoking gun made public, but they do make the setup theory far more than idle speculation to those who demand answers. The night looks engineered, a private plan interrupted, an unlikely meeting at an unlikely place, and an outcome that removed a man who had begun to own his music, his business, and his future. Let the patterns speak. The cancellation of the producer meeting, the location, and the intercept by Elisa Boyer are the strongest pieces of circumstantial evidence that many believe point to a deliberate setup. But remember, suspicion is not the same as legal proof. The unanswered questions are what keeps Sam Cooke's death unresolved, and what makes the story demand re-examination. Elise Boyer lived a complicated life on the fringes of the entertainment world. Far from being just an innocent bystander in Sam Cooke's tragic story, she was a young woman moving within an underworld where sex work, nightclub hustling, and shady business dealings often intersected with the music industry. Women like Boyer were sometimes paid, coerced, or manipulated into setting up artists, drawing them into compromising positions that could be exploited by club owners, promoters, or even criminal figures with financial interests in silencing or controlling a star. This wasn't unique to Sam Cooke's case. The music industry of the late 1950s and early 1960s was riddled with stories where women were used as pawns in larger schemes. Billie Holiday, for example, was often targeted by police through informant women placed near her, helping fuel her legal troubles. Jazz saxophonist Lester Young was caught in similar entrapment tactics in the 1940s. Even rock and roll pioneers like Chuck Berry and Little Richard found themselves entangled with women whose sudden accusations or setups seemed to benefit powerful outsiders more than the women themselves. In this atmosphere, women like Elisa Boyer lived in a gray zone, surviving as escorts, hostesses, or nightclub companions, but also playing roles in plots that left black artists vulnerable to exploitation or destruction. Bertha Franklin, the motel manager who pulled the trigger that ended Sam Cooke's life, was no stranger to these circumstances either. Her background included connections to the sex trade, gambling operations, and other nightlife hustles that kept her tied to people in positions of both power and danger. For women like Franklin, loyalty was transactional, and survival often depended on serving the interests of those who controlled the underground economy. What makes her role even more suspicious was the convenience of her actions that night. At the very moment of the fatal confrontation, Franklin just happened to be on the phone with her friend Evelyn Carr. That call provided her with a ready-made witness, poised to back up her story of self-defense. The timing was too precise to dismiss as coincidence. It was calculated, and it ensured that Franklin avoided a murder conviction. But beyond her freedom, there was something bigger at play. By silencing Sam Cooke, the forces behind the scenes eliminated a man whose growing independence from record labels and insistence on black ownership posed a threat to the established order. And this is where the tragedy becomes even more profound. In the early 1960s, speaking openly about racial equality and justice was more than controversial, it was dangerous. America was still deeply segregated, and equality was little more than a dream. For a black entertainer like Sam Cooke, who had fame, wealth, and influence, calling for justice was seen as a direct challenge to the system. Sam Cooke's death came before the rise of the Black Panther Party, yet he was already living by the very ideals the Panthers would later stand for. He owned his publishing rights, launched his own record label, and believed in economic independence for black artists. He was planting seeds of self-determination and empowerment long before the Panthers gave it a name. Looking back from today's perspective, the parallels are chilling. Just as Cooke was silenced for daring to merge art with activism, we see in our own time that voices calling for equality, justice, and truth still face backlash, censorship, and, at times, destruction. Sam Cooke's death was not just the loss of a legendary singer, it was the deliberate silencing of a man who was shaping a movement the system was not ready to allow. The story of Sam Cooke is not just history, it is a warning. The same forces that worked to control artists in the 1960s are still alive today. Record labels continue to exploit talent, using modern versions of the same tricks. Contracts that strip artists of ownership, streaming deals that pay pennies, and payola, backroom deals that decide who gets played, who gets silenced, and who gets left behind. The system profits from creativity while often leaving the creators broken or forgotten. And yet, despite these injustices, Sam Cooke's voice still echoes. His music lives on, not just as songs we play, but as a blueprint for independence, courage, and vision. He was more than a singer. He was a pioneer who showed what it meant for a black man to demand ownership and respect at a time when neither was freely given. As we remember him, we must also carry his fight forward. Support the artists who fight for their rights. Question the systems that profit from silence. And never forget that Sam Cooke's story is not only about how he died, but about how he lived, bold, unafraid, and was always ahead of his time.
It's been a long day.